It's Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. Dialing in from our Toronto headquarters, I'm Neil Modi, and with me, my usual co-host, Phil Emery. Welcome back, Phil. How are you doing?
Calling in from St. John's, Newfoundland. Doing much better, actually. I managed to catch the plague at one point, and it hung on for the longest time, but I seem to be on the mend. So looking forward to getting back into this. And this is, the show is an idea I kind of spearheaded a bit, and then I know I'm going to regret it because this is not my long suit at all.
Well, we'll have to get some merchandise on the Song Talk Radio store. I survived the plague, the first one, and then the second one is I survived the songwriting challenge from
2025.
So you can have your pick. You can have one on the front, one on the back, whatever.
That'll do it.
Great. Well, good to have you back, Phil.
Thanks. We got to get our merch merch situation down.
Yeah, one of these days.
Yeah.
In the meantime, please send your comments and questions to @SongTalk Radio on Facebook or Instagram, or feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And of course, please visit us, songtalk.ca, to see the show post for this episode. You're going to want to do that. And to find links to resources we mentioned, you're definitely going to do that tonight, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. Tonight, we're very happy to welcome award-winning composer and music educator Frank Horvat back to the show. Great to have you and your amazing musical brain with us once again, Frank. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys. I think this is probably about the 67th or 68th episode I've appeared on. As I always say when I come on, I am the Steve Martin, just like Steve Martin on SNL. I am the Steve Martin of Song Talk Radio.
That's
frequent guest.
Indeed.
And depending who's asking, probably too frequent, but that's whatever. But you guys are the bosses, and as long as you keep inviting me, then I know it's not too frequent. So that's
exactly. It has been a short while anyway since you've last been on the show, I think. But yeah, it's been a little while. But then again, we've been doing this for a really long time now. So
yeah,
there's always that. Okay, before we get to the big news and big stuff of today, Phil's got a little bit he wants to talk about.
Yes. So back in the days, actually, the first time Frank was on our show, we were actually in a radio station in a small red room with the crew and all that. And back then, I had set up a Patreon page for us. And I think we pushed it for a bit. And then somehow, over the years, we kind of forgot about it. But there's been some really lovely people who have been paying into the Patreon all this time. And we definitely appreciate that. But this is great. Like, Neil and I don't make a lot of dough for this show. We've just been doing it for the love of it. And even the meetup costs have gone way up. They've like $600 a year now for a meetup, absurd, which is just goofy. So we would love it if you could go to the Patreon and throw us like, whatever you can. So go to songtalk.ca/support. And that'll take you to our Patreon page, and throw us some cash, and that would be awesome. And I think it's funny that I kind of forgot about it, and then kind of remembered about it, and went, "Oh yeah, it's still there," and it is. So, then the people who found it and have been contributing, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It's been amazing to rediscover that, and the wonders of compound interest, I guess. The couple of bucks we got way back when. Alrighty, great. Yeah, for sure. So it's been a couple of weeks now since the Junos in 2025 went by here in Canada. They took place in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago. But just want to give a couple of heads up to a few of our past guests who were nominated for a couple of Juno Awards. Julian Taylor for his album Pathways was nominated for Contemporary Roots Album of the Year, and Afros, who was our guest this past year for her album Roses, was nominated for Adult Contemporary Album of the Year. So congratulations to those folks. And it's amazing what happens after you come on Song Talk Radio. Next thing you know, you're up for a Juno. But there was one other interesting story from the Junos this year, that this is the first time that they've created an award for Songwriter of the Year non-performer. And the award was won by an artist named Lowell, who is an artist in her own right, but she was a co-writer on a few songs that won that were award-winning songs in general, Texas Hold'em and Bodyguard by Beyonce and Takes One to Know One by the Beaches. So she was co-writer on this on some of those songs. So she was awarded as a songwriter without having been a performer on any of those songs. So it's interesting that I think SOCAN was a big sort of advocator in this space to say, hey, we should have an award for simply for songwriting without being a performer, which is kind of an interesting thing.
That is fantastic.
It's the first time that's happened.
That is a great thing.
And long overdue, if you think about it, because there's a lot of amazing artists out there that don't write their song. But they're the face of the song that goes on the radio or that does tours and stuff. Meanwhile, there is a whole community out there that you guys are really helping nurture through your community that are doing these that are great songwriters. So I can't believe it's taken this long to do that. Even in my little world, my little corner of the world, in the modern classical music world, the Junos forever have had classical composition of the year, which goes to a composer, which is sort of like a songwriter in the background, not always the face, the performer, right? So I was dumbfounded that they didn't have this.
Yeah, that's great.
When you think about it, back in the day, there was always songwriter and performer were always separated. Even the pop world, they were separated. Yep. But then over time, they became more together. But even nowadays, and for the last generation, really, there's been more of a separation. I think with solo artists that sing and perform, but they're not necessarily. But there's a whole, just look at Sweden and all the songwriters that come out of there.
That is really good. Good on SOCAN, and if you're not, you should. If you're in Canada, go to SOCAN. I think it's SOCAN.ca, SOCAN, and you can register. They have lots of resources there, and they really do good work.
Yeah, for sure.
So good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And when you write your songs and we're ready to release them, you should definitely be registering them on SOCAN.
Yes, in fact, we had that. That episode with Alistair Bradley about all the many ways you need to register your songs, which I never knew about. Yeah,
there's a lot of. We'll definitely link to that in the show post because wicked resources on that one.
Absolutely,
just tell us everything we need to know. All right, okay, it's great to have Frank back with us tonight because we're launching into our songwriting challenge for 2025. This is year 6 of our songwriting challenges, and of course you will find, once again, a dedicated webpage for this challenge and for all our past challenges at songtalk.ca. See the link in the sidebar. We have a link there for songwriting challenges. You can visit all of them that we've done over the past 6 years. So, as we promised, we've been dropping this off and on the podcast for the last several months. Our challenge for 2025 is to write a song in an odd time signature. We're going to get into that, what we're talking about.
Or a time signature that you're not used to using.
Yes.
And bonus points if you use 2.
Yeah. Bonus points if you use 2. Not that we're keeping score, but if you really want to challenge yourself. And that's really the only requirement. So, and of course, as we've done in previous years, we're asking our listeners to please write your songs and send them into us. And we've had a blast the last few years showcasing your songs on our podcast. And as the years have gone by, we've dedicated like 3, 4, 5 episodes just to our listener songs, which is absolutely incredible. And all the different answers we get into our challenges, which is such an incredible community we have. And it's awesome you guys take part in them. And it's just awesome.
Some of the songs are produced. Some of them are just, someone with a phone. They're all great.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be solidly produced. It could just be, a guitar and a vocal, piano and a vocal, and it's perfectly fine. Okay. All right. And of course, for this challenge, we are preparing a dedicated webpage featuring links to this episode, links to an episode we did a couple years ago on the same topic that actually probably was the instigator for this whole process, saying, "Hey, we should do a songwriting challenge on this topic." And of course, we've had many guests over the years that have shared songs, and they just happen to be an odd time signature. So we've got a link to a catalog of all the episodes of previous guests. So there's a lot of resources there, and a lot of good learning and stuff to do on that webpage. So and tonight we've actually got Frank has come to us with 8 songs that he's picked that are in odd time signatures. So maybe first we should define our terms. What do we mean by an odd time signature?
Yeah, that's hilarious. You asked that because when you emailed me about this, Neil, that's exactly what I asked you. Yeah. It's like, what do you call an odd time signature? Because me, composer geek, some of these time signatures are not that odd. But in the context of writing pop songs, I think one of the things that we had defined was basically, and I sort of agreed with you to a certain extent, but basically the definition for me of let's say unique time signature, odd is a bad word, unique time signature in the annals of pop music writing, I would say is any song that's not in 4/4 or 6/8. And I think we talked about that over email. Now that's fascinating because that means under that definition, 3/4 is an odd time signature. And, there's a lot of famous songs written in 3/4. Like in the 70s, You Light Up My Life, or, a lot of country songs are in 3/4, traditional, the Tennessee Waltz. So a waltz tradition or a 3/4 is definitely a very traditionally accepted in a lot of genres of music, and styles of music is quite an acceptable one. But other than that, 4/4 and 6/8, oh my gosh, there's been 6/8 is really known for a shuffle, a lot of 50s music, was that the Righteous Brothers song, what was that famous one? Oh my love, dun 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 dun. That's that's a sort of any that kind of 6/8. But yeah, generally though, oh my God, there's so many songs written in 4/4, and so that's why I love your challenge this year, because honestly, guys, it's so overdone, there's so many songs written in 4/4. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm writing so many pieces, not just songs, but I'm writing instrumental pieces, and it's just convenient to do it in 4/4. And in fact, often I will insinuate the way I write something, that something is not in 4/4 by where I place accents and beat patterns and stuff, but it's still 4/4. I'm still doing it in 4/4 just because I'm too lazy to change the time signature in my Logic or something, So
yeah. The thing we discovered, I think, when we did this topic a couple years ago, and we showcased a bunch of songs, is that odd time, and I actually do agree with the term odd time signatures from a mathematical point of view, because it's an odd number. It's 3, 5, 7, 9, as opposed to an even number. Not odd as in it's peculiar. You could argue that it is because it's rare.
Although one of the songs I quoted that we're going to go over tonight is in 10/8. That's 10 beats. That's not an odd number.
And that's not the same as 5/4. Yeah. Yeah.
So we do have a term. We do have a term in music theory to describe it. The official, often music theory term is called hybrid time signatures. So let's take one of the more common type of time signatures, which is actually not on my list, but definitely is quite common and very popular as far as odd time signatures, is 5/4. Even if you think about that really famous song by Dave Brubeck, the famous jazz piece, Take 5. I was thinking, should I put this on? But there's no lyrics in that, so I didn't put it on the list for tonight. But that piece is quite famous that way. So basically a hybrid time signature is you actually, what you do is you take that odd time signature, one bar of that, but you subdivide the bar into unequal halves and think of it as sort of like mini time signatures within each. So for example, a lot of times when people write a song in 5/4, they'll do 3+2, where you put an accent on the first beat and you put an accent on the fourth beat. Or you can do 2+3. So for example, take 5, that famous jazz piece, ba-dum, ba-dum, 4, 5, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, so that there's an accent on 1 and 4. But most of them are like that, a lot of them can be like that, and it has to do with where you put accents and how you feel the piece. And you just have to count like crazy. And that's why I think people don't like writing for because a lot of what we do in music, we want it to feel intuitive. But we want it to be so intuitive that we just go with our natural flow of the beat we want to feel. Even like going through these songs for myself, going through and making this list, I was like super concentrating, counting along, you know what I mean? And I was like, does that take away from the enjoyment of the song? I guess what I'm trying to say is the goal here is, and hopefully we'll all hear that in the songs we're going to listen to after, like, if you don't know anything about music, can you still enjoy this song? And some of the songs we're going to refer to tonight are super famous. So it's not like, oh my gosh, like what a weird, this is not going to be, some of it for some people might be weird, but some of these are going to be some of the greatest songs, rock songs in rock history. So, so the key to writing a type of song, like a key, like measuring stick of your success artistically and creatively, is can you do it in a way where there's all the other elements? You got a great melody, you got great words, you got great thing, and just the fact that it's in an on-time signature doesn't become like your prime focus, and it just becomes like this thing. And I think some of the examples we're going to listen to will demonstrate that.
Yeah, I think definitely that's kind of the key, because the one thing we found with the songs that we showcased on when we did this episode a couple of years ago was that they do have a certain tension to them. As soon as the odd time signature gets introduced, there's something unnerving about it and something a little bit tense about it. So that was one thing we kind of came away with. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Frank, that if you still, as a songwriter, you're leading with melody, you're leading with lyric, this is just another way to add a different dimension to your song that maybe, fits in a kind of a different way. And it's certainly if you do write in an odd time signature, it's going to lead you towards different melody shapes, I think, as a songwriter.
Very good point. Absolutely. That, like, how everything is interconnected in the elements that you use to construct your song, that can definitely inspire it. So for a lot of bands, when they're writing a song in a sort of a unique time signature like this, they might come up with the riff and the pattern first, especially in the drums and the bass. And then that bar structure that they've created, like with the riff, that's plugging into this unique time signature, that sort of becomes the organizing staple of the piece. And it influences the phrasing, where you're going to take a break with the vocals, in the melody and that type of thing. And it sort of just becomes this really sort of unifying organizational thing, which is cool. So I really agree with that. The other thing that I was thinking a lot about, and this relates to what you were just talking about, Neil, about, how sometimes it can get, I don't want to say, what was the word you used? Not grating, but like, it's like, it becomes like a distraction or tense. I think one of the things that can do that, and this wasn't technically on the brief that you gave me, so I made the decision. I tried to pick songs, except I think there's only one on my list that does this, but I was trying to come up with songs where the whole song from beginning to end stayed in the same time signature. One of the things that, of course, as a songwriter, that you have the option of doing is changing time signatures. There's a ton of famous songs that have little twists and changes of time signatures, but they're usually used as an impactful moment. In fact, Lisa and I were just watching a show on Netflix last night, and you know how you source a lot of famous songs and stuff. The producers decided to include in the show "Cornflake Girl" by Tori Amos, and that is a fantastic. Tori Amos is one of my favorite artists, and she's a huge influence on me. I think she's absolutely a musical genius, actually. But if you listen to a song like that, the little hook before she launches into the chorus where she chants between the verse and the chorus is this little part where she's like dun 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 da 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 da. You bet your life, that. Then she launches into the chorus. So that's a good example of how you can use a little twist of including just a couple of extra beats at the end of a section as a means to accentuate that. I just wanted to emphasize that because what we're going to discuss tonight is not doing that. This is just the majority or all the song is in that. So I just wanted to see how can we feel the song, and more importantly, I think the first song on my list, if that's what we're going to start with, "Money" by Pink Floyd. Because it's so repetitive, after a while, even if you're counting along, it's it becomes natural, that is the time signature. It doesn't after a while, just through repetition, and the riff keeps repeating, you actually forget that it's in 7/4 or that 7/4 is an odd time signature. And I think that's also a really great goal. I'm not trying to influence your rules for your songwriting challenge. The majority of the bars maybe you should put that in your rules. The majority of the bars have to be an odd time signature, or rather, you can decide that for yourself. But if you can make it from beginning to end in the odd time signature, that's a really, really great exercise and really can give your song a completely different inflection, but still be pleasing and interesting to listen to.
So when you say 7/4, let's talk about how that is counted.
Yeah, and that's a great question, Phil, and that's completely up to the writers. So as I was saying before, a lot of the time signatures we're talking about tonight are called hybrid time signatures. It's an offshoot of compound time signatures. There's a lot of songs written in 6/8, 9/8, 12/8, where you can take a bar and divide it into little mini groups of 3, right? But a hybrid time signature is the extension of that. So for 7/4, you can go with your beat feel, your emphasis of the beats. It could be 2 + 2 + 3. You can go 2 + 3 + 2. You can go 3. The bigger the number of the time signature, the more hybrid-y it can get of how you subdivide the bar and put your emphasis on the bar. And so that's what makes it cool. You can have really interesting emphasis in certain parts of the bar to create its own unique. So you can have one song in 7/4, and then you play another song in 7/4, and they will feel completely different, even though they both have 7 counts, because the composer decided to put the beat emphasis on different spots of the bar.
So how are we going to count the Pink Floyd song?
Yeah. Money's very driven by that guitar riff. Right.
You know what, guys? I'm sorry. I'm going to have to hear it again. I can't remember. I can't remember. So,
okay,
1, then 2, 3. Okay, let's do it.
We'll play it for a bit, and then we'll talk again. Okay, here we go. So that's 1, 2, 3. Because when the drums come in, it's like a bar of 4/4. and then 3, isn't it?
So I felt, for me, and this is what's interesting, if you're trying to decipher songs, you have to pick out certain instruments. And for me, it's the bass and the bass or guitar, the riff, the da da da, boom, dong, dong, do. So that dip down for the dong, for me, I would interpret that as 3 plus 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That dip down on B4 for me makes it feel like that.
Can you count that again?
1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 and 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was almost counting it as a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, because that 7 is really strongly emphasized. Da, 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 da,
and this is where now what everything we're discussing, what's really important to understand is we're trying to get into the mind of, David Gilmour and Roger Waters, right? Right now, just by listening to it. If we were Pink Floyd scholars, maybe there's been a book written, or maybe some people out there will know, they can tell us. Absolutely, such a huge, big time band, right? But what makes this challenging for us right now is the fact that the way they did the recording is they made it really not emphasized. Like a lot, especially in classical music, there would be a slight emphasis where they want you to feel the beat, and that would bring it out. Like there's a really famous early 20th century Hungarian composer named Bela Bartok, really famous in early 20th century music, and he used hybrid time signatures a lot. But because he was influenced by Eastern European, especially his native Hungary, the folk music, it was really emphasizing the beat. So when you hear a composition by Bartok, and you'd have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. So it's so blatantly obvious, what the 7/8 or the 7/4, where the emphasis was. This is what I love about this song, is the fact that we can't figure it out, or it's a little deceptive, because they didn't make where the beats go. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, which I think makes this song a classic song, songwriting wise, is that it's so sleek. You know what I mean? Traditionally, when these kind of hybrid time signatures are used, it's really to accentuate really weird rhythm. You watch an action adventure film and the taikos are going crazy. The taiko drums in Marvel comic movies are doing this, it's like, it's like to get you to feel like the army and the apocalypse is coming, this is how it's traditionally used in orchestral and stuff. Orchestral classical music, and now into film music. But this song is classic. We don't really know 100% based on what we're hearing, what they were thinking. But when you listen to the song, it still has this really weirdish vibe, but it's still chill at the same time. So you as the songwriter or composer can know how you're organizing the beat, are you doing 3 plus 4, 4 plus 3, or like Neil, you said 3 plus 3 plus 1. There's no wrong answer. You can do whatever you want. But if you want to give it this non-emphasized type of vibe, like they might do in folk music or film music, then only you have to know. You don't have to tell anybody. And that's cool, because it's how it comes across to the listener. That's the most important, right? It's just how are you organizing it in your head? That's okay. But definitely it's in 7/4, that's for sure, because the beginning, the end, the riff is so repetitive. And this is what I was talking about before. This is a great way to organize your riffs. You can come up with this really, really cool riff and then just loop the same riff over and over again within that time parameter. And people will be able to get used to it in the vibe and almost feel the beat, so to speak, because the riff is sort of repeating within that. That's going to be a sort of a common thing with a lot of the songs we listen to tonight.
Let's listen to it again for a bit, and then we'll try. So the folks at home can try to count and see how it works, because it's a bit wacky. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, see what it is. It's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So it's 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
But I like your theory too, Neil. I like the idea that the upbeat, the seventh beat, is sort of like a pickup and sort of feels special, but it's sort of a pickup to the downbeat.
Especially like for me being a drummer natively is like I have trouble counting it until the drums come in, right? So when the drums come in, it's very 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. It's like a 6/4. But then it's just like, well, we're just gonna wait, and then we're gonna drop
the extra beat. But that's actually you're nailing sort of one of those tricks you can do, because a lot of pop music has to have elements in it that are familiar and that people can groove to. So them as a band, as songwriters, they made a decision that maybe the drums was going to be sort of the basic part, right? Like that was not going to be overly complex. That's where the groove is going to be. It's going to be the meter. That's the one thing we're talking about with all these songs.
Basically a backbeat.
Exactly. A lot of these songs, you're going to notice, because of the irregular time signature, there's more of an onus on the band. Like most pop music is quite groove oriented, but especially odd time signature songs. You need to have a good steady pulse and groove. A lot of these bands will definitely record with a click track and that type of thing. You can really see that this one it's I don't want to say robotic, but it definitely has that sort of mechanical thing. Even that splice tape of all the different change. Technically, for me, the 7/4 started with all that, that musique concrète that they were doing at the very beginning before the bass riff came in,
Yeah, that's quite a good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, so what's the next one coming up?
So if we're going in my order, Neil, right, this is going to be Moon by Bjork. And folks, this is an insane time signature. I know most modern classical composers that wouldn't even compose a piece in 17/8. Okay?
Yeah, this song kind of breaks my brain.
Beats in the bar. Now, technically, this does contain the same mentality. If you listen to the groove in the electronic part, and you keep counting, count right from the first thing, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 1, 2. And you'll see when you land your 1, it will be the same note that started the previous bar 1. It is technically formulaic, but it is definitely extreme.
but is it hybrid in the same way that
this
the song
one
is? Like,
now,
is there a division of a 9 or 10 or something around there somewhere?
Usually the hybrid is usually decipherable best in 5s and 7s. This is absolutely insane. I tried. So if anybody can figure out what the breakdown of the hybrid is within the 17, you are, I think, a musical genius. I'm not that bright. So
17. So there's 17 beats in a bar, and you count 1 as the 8th.
Yes, correct. So the reason the bottom number 8 refers to which note value. So for people using like a DAW or something like that, you set the bottom number of your time signature to 8. You're thinking of an 8th note getting 1 beat. And that is technically more popular because that's sort of a spin-off of it. Now, if you want, 16/8 is sort of like, you're just one off. 17 makes it like a bit of a weird twist and stuff, but 16/8 could be considered the same as 8/4, which can be the same as 4/2. So it's actually, again, not that far off the mark. Like Neil, you were saying in Money, right? It's just this extra note. This one is technically an extra note, but the riff in this, the electronic riff, is what makes it a little bit more out there, I think. It makes it a little bit harder to decipher.
All right, let's take a listen to the 17/8 song, and we'll talk about some more.
As the lukewarm hands
that cool?
Yeah, that is well.
I love that song.
Do you think that is electronics? I mean, it sounds like it's just.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misquoted that. I forgot my different examples. That's definitely a harp.
Yeah,
it's definitely a concert harp, and that's what's fascinating about that. That's a purely acoustic thing. Some of like the bass, like the bass electronic drums comes in later and pulses and things like that in a subtle way. But you could hear that basically the riff was and so this is what I was talking about. This is how pitch and meter and rhythm are all tied in together, right? And you could see that compositionally, it was made a decision. We're going to have notes because we're going to do this really crazy pattern of 17 notes before it loops again. We're going to always have it on the beat. So that way there's a pulse to it. And technically you can count. If anybody listens to it again, you're going to hear that the high note in that opening is always the beginning of the riff. And you know that it's going back, and that's beat one again, because it's exactly the same. Also, just one little last point, just to be music geekish, I did break my rule. That middle part where the low bass thing, I'd switched to 10/8 there. I was counting, and it definitely, when the harp pattern changed, it changed. And finally, the last thing for me that makes that piece interesting, so I would question, I have theories of how they recorded that piece, but what's fascinating is if you listen carefully, when Bjork came in for the first verse, she didn't come in on beat one. And that's a really cool thing, especially if you're doing electronic music and maybe you create your bed track or your instrumental pattern beforehand. You could really have a lot of fun. Bjork is such a creative human being. I could just see like the producer saying, hey, I got this harp loop or whatever. We'll just keep looping this over and over again. And this in the recording session, she's got her lyrics, she's got her melody, and she just randomly came in on notes. So for example, her first entry wasn't even close to beat one. I believe it was about beat 4 or 5 of the 17. So it just gives it this really just wavy, like loose type of feel. And I think it's just, I think it's ingenious. Sorry, Neil.
It's quite it's kind of trippy, right? Like you're right that it's not a groove in such a way, right? It's just it is very loose and because it's not even loose, but it's open to, like you're not going to think, when you hear that first one again, 17 beats went by, you're just going to listen to this descending harp figure and be like, okay. Because at a certain point, I did start counting it in 4/4. Like, dun, 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 1 and 2 and 1 and, or it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then it skips at the end.
And then there's an extra one. Then there's the extra one at the end. Yeah, exactly.
At the end, and you loop back, so you get thrown off. And certainly that B part, you don't even have the descending figure anymore. So it's really much more, like you say, the relationship to pitch, right? That sort of gives your listener the cue that the loop is starting again. Well, in the B part, it's so ephemeral that you lose that pitch quality as well.
And the key thing for me, songwriting wise, is that the pitch reference, the loop starting over with that distinctive pitch that you didn't hear anywhere else. And so that's subconsciously there for the listener, what I mean? And sort of an organizational thing for yourself, what I mean? Just to keep track and to get into a groove. It's not your regular groove you're used to, but it's there just to keep your bearing straight. Anybody who's not a trained musician won't know why they can follow it, but they're able to follow it. It's not chaos. It's not craziness. And it has to do with what you said, Neil. It has to do with the choice of pitch and being really strategic to use a distinctive pitch in your riff that will give you the feeling. I always, like for listeners, subconsciously, they just associate that pitch with being the downbeat, so they can recalibrate where they are in the bar.
Well, it's a fascinating fascinating piece, and it's something you'd have to listen to a few times to really wrap your head around it.
I'd love to talk to Bjork about how she came up with that. Like, that's so...
Yeah. Well, next time she's over for dinner,
I think if you guys had her as a guest, you could you already know you've done an awesome service with Song Talk Radio. It's such an institution. But if Bjork came on and deciphered all her songs and stuff, it's like we've died and we're happy now.
We're good now.
She's one of my favorites. So super talented. If somebody said, "Hey, you could work with Bjork," or if she's listening right now, I'm available to collaborate anytime. So
I think that kind of goes for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Which isn't surprising. I think she's been performing since she was 6 or something. So
yeah, she's been around. She knows her stuff. She's quirky and weird and wonderful. Yeah.
So number 3 is Radiohead, I think.
My favorite band of all time. I could not do any list of any musical topic without a Radiohead song being on the list. Okay. I love this band. One of my huge influences. Obviously, extremely have a reputation for being very groundbreaking, innovative, and experimental. And this song, definitely very famous, this song. But unique time signature again. This one's 10/4. This is in the same ballpark as 17/8. Very, very rare. Remember, most common type of hybrid time signatures or odd time signatures are 5 and 7. That's the go-to, like 90% of the time. I don't want to do 4/4 or 6/8. I'm doing 7 or 5. But 10, that's crazy.
So how is this counted?
And again, it's not subdivided, or it's a continuous.
Again, guys, it's going to be the riff. You listen, and I guarantee you start counting from when you start hearing. And I guarantee you can hear the 10. And you won't hear it right away in the first bar, maybe not the second bar, but you hear that riff loop and you're going to listen to the pitch of the riff and you're going to hear it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating song.
You're absolutely right. It is a continuous 10. There's no subdivision.
That is it is. I found it easy to follow. It wasn't hard for me. Like after 3 or 4 bars, I'm actually perfectly comfortable with the groove of 10. It's so comfortable. Now, what does make that song complicated, and this is something that we haven't talked about yet, is how do you start one of these songs? This song is really classic because it does upbeats to start. So it does that organ part, that organ synth part that goes ba-do-do-do. And so the do-do-do-do is not beat 1. The downbeat after that is. So da-da-do-do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what he does what he does so brilliantly with Tom York with his vocals is he mimics that when he comes in with his verse. He comes in on the upbeats as well. 2, 3, everything, boom, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, anything, 1, 2, 3. So he keeps going with the upbeats, and so that gives it even this more flowy, sort of silky vibe to it, especially with the choice of synth sounds and the organ type of sounds. But guys, can you imagine that song was the opening song of Kid A, one of the most influential rock albums of all time. That album came out the year 2000, 25 years ago. I listen to that song now. It feels like it just came out yesterday. That's 25 years old, that song. It blows my mind. For me, they're one of the greatest bands because they give you a feeling like I always thought like Radiohead is like prog rock. A lot of the stuff we talk about comes from like the prog rock era, like of really highly experimental virtuosic rock music. The only thing is Radiohead is like, it's not grating or harsh or mechanical. It's like so full of life and stuff. And that's one of the greatest songs to demonstrate that.
Yeah, it's and it's true. It's 10, but there's no sort of broken, and there's no sort of obvious, downbeats. They're not trying to put 2 and 4 on top of it. Mm-hmm. It's very much 2. 10.
Simple riffs, and a steady beat. That's the formula here. If anybody can write a song like this, as long as you keep it simple, don't make a complicated riff, and just have something that just has like a repeated beat, and then have your reference points. So it's like, it's not hard. This is not rocket science.
Okay. All right. So what do we got up next? Solsbury Hill.
Yeah, that's a pretty classic song, isn't it? This one's more of like your traditional hybrid. This is 7/4.
Mm-hmm. So how is this counted?
I got to hear it first. Okay, well, I'm so not prepared. I'm so sorry.
This one's always been an interesting one because the intro starts, I think, in a 4+3. But right. Then when he starts singing, it flips to a 3+4.
Okay.
Or it's the other way around. Something like that. It switches when the verse starts.
Okay, fascinating. Let's take a listen. No, I got to hear this.
We'll count it and then we'll listen again.
Solsbury Hill, I could see the city light. Wind was blowing, time stood still. Eagle flew out of the night. He was something to observe. Came in close, I heard a voice, standing, stretching every nerve. I had to listen, had no choice. I did not believe the information, just had to trust imagination. My heart going boom, boom, boom. Son, he said, grab your things, I've come to take you home. To keep in silence, I resigned.
There's a couple.
You are bang on.
Yeah.
You are bang on, Neil. That was exactly right. Absolutely right. 4+3 to start, and then 3+4 to start, and then when the verse comes in, 4+3. Absolutely.
And then when the verse ends, he goes back.
He goes back,
right.
but there's a couple of 4/4 bars in there as well, right at the end of the chorus. Right. There's a couple of 4/4
very
bars
rare,
and then goes back into
which is sort of ironic that you're using a conventional time signature to throw the listener off kilter. It's like so ironic. It's flipped around, you know?
Well, because like you were saying at the beginning, Frank, if you loop something, even if it's an odd time signature over and over again, the listener gets into that groove, and then 4/4 becomes the odd time signature in that context, right?
Absolutely, which is so ironic. Yeah, but definitely a great song. And listening to this song, what it reminds me of course, Peter Gabriel was a product of the prog era, right? Like a member of Genesis and that kind of thing, those early years of like prog rock. But, reminded me again, listening to this song, he has like a real sort of English, Irish, folk sensibility to a lot of his writing. It's a lot of these songs are arguably almost like folk style. And that gets me thinking that a lot of folk traditions, this is normal stuff. There's no odd time signature in a lot of cultures around the world. And I'm talking like all kinds, like folk music, like even like Bob Dylan songs, he would just like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to enter my next line and, everyone's just going to follow me. I think of like a song like The Hurricane. Like you listen to a song, you can't even really count it. It's not like 4 on the floor, And a lot of Irish traditions, like, it's get really complex. Of course, Indian music. It's like these aren't odd time signatures for a lot of parts of the world. So pop artists or pop songwriters are just adopting and a sponge to what's around them. And I listen to a song like this, it almost feels like some kind of a English folk song of some type. It gives you that vibe to it.
Yeah.
Like and it's it's also like it's very melodic. It doesn't feel jarring, which I think is why it's one of a success. There's people who do like that math metal stuff, and I think it's meant to be a bit jarring. That's kind of the whole point, where this is very musical. But yeah, I
agree with you. And I think like if that's your artistic intent, good on you. You know what I mean? Like you can use this to like really, like you said earlier, Neil, to throw the listener off kilter, right? And like give it that extra oomph and harshness, just to create chaos and that type of thing. But what I like about all the examples that we've shared so far, and a lot of the stuff that was on the song, is I'm thinking like a lot of people who are like sort of writing thought-provoking, poignant music where you want people to hear your lyrics, and like what you're trying to say through the message of your music. You don't have to think, well, if I write a song in this kind of time signature, that's going to take away because people are going to start counting. Like we're counting because we're music geeks, right? We're trying to dissect this and get into the nuts and bolts of it. But trust me, no one else is listening, like doing what we're doing right now. Like the non-music, just the music fans, they're not doing this. They're just like, I love Solsbury Hill. It's like a song I listened to on the radio as a kid, and it's one of my favorites, or Money, or these kind of thing, so that's cool.
Yeah.
If it doesn't draw attention to itself, then it's arguably a good thing. I mean, like you say, like math metal and stuff, they're trying to draw attention to the fact that it's jittery and odd and
difficult music.
Difficult, difficult.
I think the next one on our list, guys, might be going into that list. I don't know if you're a big early Genesis fan, you might take offense to what I just said, but I thought I would throw in something a little bit more traditional prog rock in there, something super old school. So we'll see what people think about this one. This is 13/8.
13/8.
13/8, which, by the way, again follows what you were observing earlier, Neil, which is the +1. It's almost normal, except for just one extra beat. Well, think about it. You might think on the surface, 13/8, that's a crazy time signature. What song's ever written? Guess what? A ton of songs are written in 12/8. That's an extension of 6/8. That's a common sort of shuffle type of beat. So 13/8 in that respect isn't too crazy because it's just that +1.
Is this counted straight, or is this?
I have to hear it. A lot of these steps are so crazy. I have to refresh my memory, man. Okay, roll it. So there's a lot in there. That one is a lot of mixed time signatures. So the more the pre-chorus and the chorus there was definitely in 4/4. I would also describe that, I think I saw somebody quote this as 13/8. I would say this is actually more 13/4. Or where it's more 13/4 because there's so many like eighth notes in the drum pattern. But Neil, it's the same thing that you noticed in Money, right? It's the same formula. The drums just do a little tickety boo on the beat before the downbeat, and that's how you keep track of where the downbeat's going to land. He just puts that extra little tick-a-dum.
Yeah. I think I've always counted. I think I used to play the song on my piano when I was a teenager, and it was I had the sheet music for it, and I think the sheet music denoted it as 4/4, 2/4, 4/4, 3/4.
That's actually a much better way to do it, and much easier to follow.
Yeah, it's easier to count because then you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, right,
1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And that's definitely how the riff is divided.
Let's listen to it again. And listen to the count it the way Neil did it.
That's bang on, Neil. You're bang on.
It's a great riff.
It is. It's really great. And you know what?
Like this was on pop radio.
Oh gosh, yeah. And you know what? But it's way easier to follow. It's so much easier to follow with your system, and that's where there's no rules here, right? It's easy if you're using like you're creating these patterns in like Logic or Pro Tools or Ableton or something. You can just change time signatures. Just program the loop, like change your time signatures like that, and then it's easier for you to decipher too, and that can organize your ideas. You could see how all the patterns, the chord structure, there's something called harmonic rhythm that we're always using in music. So chord changes will happen when there's certain beat changes, or in this case, certain bar changes. So if you think of, instead of 13/4, it's 4, instead of 1 bar of 13, it's actually 4 bars each with changing time signatures. You can use that as a basis of when you change your chord, right? And then it creates this really cool, interesting chord change, because the chord change isn't even always happening every 4 beats or every 2 beats and that type of thing. Yeah. So it influences your harmonic rhythm.
Yeah, because you listen to the da 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 da. That's your 6, and da 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 da. That's your 7. Right, so
that's 4,
2, 4, 3, and
it organizes the riff too. The riff is perfectly organized within that.
That's a great tip that I wanted to highlight, is breaking your time signature up into smaller pieces and then changing the chords when the time signature changes as a way of starting, just to kind of get used to that mode. Because if you're like me and you haven't really, I mean, I've done stuff where there wasn't any kind of time signature, but I haven't actually done, something this structured. So that's a good way of focusing your attention. Just like, don't worry about like having great chords, but just changing the chords when the time signature changes, just to give yourself a sense of where things are, and then you can build from there, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really great way to organize it, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Next? So up next we got some CanCon. Need some CanCon over here, us proud Canadians. So Broken Social Scene. So I wonder if everybody can guess what time signature this song is in. It's called 7/4 Shoreline. But this is, the one thing I always appreciate about Broken Social Scene, their music, is their experimental sort of nature, but also a lot of musicians in that band that make up that collective are sort of really come from like singer-songwriter, folk, indie rock, alt rock. So even though they have an experimental twinge to them, again, there's just this feeling of just like really just, it's smooth, it's smooth and flowing, just like, Radiohead or Peter Gabriel or, even like Money has got this really sly vibe to it. And that's what I love about this song. So as we said, 7/4.
Yeah, very much 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
3, yeah.
And then on the 3 they have that hi-hat, the open hi-hat.
Yeah.
Which helps.
How many songs have we heard tonight that's using that formula, right?
Yeah.
Like the little twist of the drums on the beat before the downbeat. I think we've like gone through 5, 6 songs, almost like half of them or more have already done that trick, where the drummer is giving you a little cue for where your downbeat is. You know what I love about that song? 2 chords up to where we just stopped listening.
Yeah.
And the bass was like, so 80s, just like dun 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 dun, just 2 chords, and it would just change. The harmonic rhythm was changing in the 7, and just keeping it. That gave it this flow, but it just also was a bit off kilter because it was in 7. But then the beautiful vocals, they're passionate, they're soulful, and multi-layered. So you end up, because you have this little twist with a different time signature, but to simplify it, you make the chord changes really simple. And then because everything is just really in the groove in the pocket in the bottom, you can do like these super interesting things with your vocals, so it's like this is a great example where you don't have to think, oh, because I'm doing something out of the ordinary with the meter, I can't be soulful, or it's got to be mechanical or something like that. Like that's the most beautiful vocal I've ever heard,
Yeah, and it's super catchy, and it fits the time signature. Like it fits the quirkiness of the time signature, but it's still flowing and catchy, and kind of it's actually a gorgeous melody.
And very rocky. I think most people just think this is kind of a pop song. It doesn't, come out as being difficult.
Absolutely. For me, it's got a really retro vibe with that repeating eighths of the bass line. It's like, oh my gosh, like what was that popular band in the late 80s and early 90s that
repeating eighth bass lines?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. But it's just like,
you mean Talk?
No, it was a great singer. It was like they did the Love Removal Machine. Who am I thinking of? I got it. You're going to make me look it up.
Do you mean the Cult?
The Cult, yeah. A lot of repeating, like, just the bass player going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, so we've heard that a million times, but how do you do a little twist on it? Boom, change the time signature like this, or like do this hybrid. It's great.
Yeah.
So
that's a great tune. I mean, it's so poppy. Most people wouldn't even think about it. being a different time signature. And I had actually heard the song before, and didn't join to that. I didn't really pay that much attention. So there you go.
And they put it in the freaking title, Phil. Yeah. They put it 7/4. Well, they're like, oh, it's like, oh no, it's probably some, locale somewhere. No, it's literally in 7/4.
It's like that Sting song. It's called 7 Days, but it's in 5/4.
Yeah, you can see I tried to avoid the 5/4 tonight because that's really the common one. So, yeah. Okay.
So the last song is, of course, the Stranglers, which is Golden Brown.
Yeah, do you guys know this song? Like researching this show. So Phil, you know this? Do you know this band? I know nothing about this.
Oh yeah, they're big. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, sorry. I don't know anything about the Stranglers. I just came across this song researching for the show, and I'm like, this is incredibly fascinating. And I love this song because of the instrumentation. Still using all the same formulas that we've been discussing up to this point, the loop, like the pattern of the notes, and then you can hear very clearly defined when it returns and starts again. But the reason why I love it is because you can employ this with other instruments. Like this is more like harpsichord, like almost classical-ish, the early type of instruments in this song, but still using the same formula. So you could use it with any instrumentation, and that can even give it an extra twist.
What's this counted in?
So the way I heard it was 13/8 again. So I know we've had 13/8 earlier with the Genesis song. But if we want, you could definitely do what Neil's trick was. So it's not 13, it's 4 + 2 + 4 + 3. I'm not sure if it's going to do that. I have to hear it, but it could be.
Texture like sun lays me down. With my mind she runs throughout the night. No need to fight, never a frown. With golden brown, every time just like the last. On her ship, tied to the mast, to distant lands, takes both my hands. Never a frown with golden brown.
Okay, but in the verse, he's in 3/8.
He is. Actually, he's in 12/8.
Oh, 12/8,
12/8, yeah, for sure. And that's something you can do. I know I said earlier I tried to pick songs that were going to stay the whole thing, but it's really hard to find that. And in fact, if you think about it, it can be more multidimensional if you change it up. So this is a great way how the structure of the song is being influenced by the beat. So the riff, the instrumental filler, definitely in 3/8 or 13/8, and it's really easy to follow, right? 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And so they had the walking bass line down for the last 4 beats. So that's definitely 3 + 3 + 3 + 4. Yeah. And again, beautiful extension because it's just a 1 beat extension of something that's common, which is 12/8. So that whole middle part, you could see it had this almost like Elizabethan early music. 12/8 is a really common time signature for a very traditional folk and classical dance known as the jig. So the jigs are traditionally in 12/8. And that's why that verse had this really sort of folky thing, not like 1960s American, like Dylan folk, but I'm talking like Green Sleeves type of folk music, like Irish, English, Celtic, that kind of vibe. And I think that influenced the choice of the instrumentation to use these kind of early type of keyboard instruments, like this harpsichord-ish type of sounds. And I thought it's quite a clever usage of it, quite a clever quite clever songwriting and how the changes in time signatures were influencing the structure.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's actually written about heroin, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Brown.
Okay, wow. Because it's got such a traditional vibe to it. So that's a really interesting artistic twist, right? To use something very sort of traditional to describe like a...
Yeah, they had hits in the 90s, like Skin Deep, and they had one, Peaches. Back, Anyways, if you're listening to CFNY at the time, you would have heard them.
Okay. Skin Deep sounds like it might be about heroin, but anyway.
Yeah. It's actually one of their big hits, but
okay.
Yeah. Well, this has been an amazing, I think, episode.
Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, it's been a great chat.
Yeah. It's amazing how different the songs can be. Like, it's just because it's an odd time signature. It can be folky, it could be rocky, it could be almost classically inspired. It could be anything, really.
I learned so much about this. Actually, I feel much more comfortable with this challenge now than I did about an hour and a half ago. So
there's always that.
Good luck, everyone who's going to do this.
Hope our listeners will too.
Yes.
So awesome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Yeah, I think I'm hearing the band, and the band isn't playing in 4/4 there, so it's
4/4, baby.
That's very reassuring.
Come back to earth here. We're back to earth,
Yeah, we're back to
We're on the floor.
We've descended again. That is all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to Frank Horvat for joining us and for selecting those songs. Where can listeners find out more about you and hear some of your music?
FrankHorvat.com.
Awesome. And we'll link to that on the show post for this episode. And we want to hear from you too. So please send your comments, Facebook or Instagram to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes, and subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And please support us at our Patreon page. The link is on the website. And you can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page. And please join us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. Whether you're in Toronto for in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups, it's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil.
PhilEmery.ca.
And Frank, what's your favorite social media channel? Where do you post the most?
I guess Facebook, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Because everyone else is on Instagram and Sky Blue?
Oh, I don't know. That's another episode, don't you think, about the ills of social media. So,
all right. Be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on writing. In odd time signatures.
Yeah.
Keep on
writing. Wow.
Yes.
Keep on writing. Yes. Keep on writing. Yes. Keep on writing. Yes.
Yeah, keep on writing.
Oh God, my brain is fried.
If you did keep on writing, keep on writing, then you'd have 6/4. But anyway.
Oh God, this topic we could have there's so much we could even got into more like the permutations of subdividing beats and what's the difference between 4 and 8. Oh gosh, even my brain, I feel fried now. It
gets a lot of counting and a lot of intense studying, because you're right. It's one thing to passively sort of just listen in the background to a song, but when you actually want to dissect it and in any way, time signature or not time signature, even if you're just like dissecting the lyric, dissecting the melody, you got to think about the intervals and all this stuff, and it's it's more brain power.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess sometimes what I try to do is I just try to get that groove first, and then I like just program, just like what we talked about, just repeat it over and over again, and then you just program your brain about that constant groove, and then after a while you don't even think about it anymore, and you just plug in your other elements where it just feels right naturally. I think that's what Bjork was doing in that song. Like, right. I highly doubt she was counting or saying, I must come in on beat 4 of 13.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just like whatever felt right there, you know, and, you know, come in. So, but I'm sure you guys will get some interesting submissions if this is the rule. You know?
Well, I think this is this is perfect amount of information, because it was just enough to sort of help people understand the general concepts and how to count it, but we didn't get into so much depth that people kind of went, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because you can start to because this is still a creative endeavor, and it's got to be like, it's got to just feel right for what you're doing, right? So, and
that's the important thing, I think, that at least.
For sure.
And everyone can go to it to the depths that they feel comfortable. Yeah. Right? Like, it could just be a simple thing in a waltz. Like, that's fine too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because that's not a normal thing, right?
If you've never done that before, then absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, I didn't realize that. What was that Carole King song that you said was in 3/4?
Carole King? Did I say that?
Yeah, at the beginning. It was.
I don't think it was Carole King. Did I say? Or no? I was talking about Tori Amos.
Yeah, there's Tori Amos, but you sort of said you know, it was done in country and all that. There was
yeah, Tennessee Waltz. Like, a lot of country songs do that.
Yeah, but there was another one you mentioned. I went, which it is.
Oh, I can't even remember. Yeah, I'm just thinking about Cornflake Girl. That's got elements of 5 in it. But yeah, there's so many great songs in 3. That's basically like a waltz show. Like, my favorite waltz song and Lisa loves this band too, is Cake. There's a song where they sing, sad songs and waltzes aren't selling this year. And of course, it's a waltz. Da, 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 and the trumpet's so like, da, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, I love that song so much. So, like, we have a running joke. We just say, like, anytime something isn't selling or something's not popular, we just substitute the word sad songs in it. So it's like, you know, Doug Ford and waltzes aren't selling this year or something, like there's any 2-word syllable that goes in there, and it's just like our little joke. But I love that song for sure.
Yeah, it's really great.
That song says so much. But you mentioned Greensleeves. I remember back in high school, I was like 16 years old, and I was performing at the variety night with a friend of mine. I was keyboards, he was drums, and then our shtick was that we'd do 2 songs. And we'd switch, like, go on drums, he'd go on keyboards, and then we'd switch. But we did a cover of Greensleeves where I played it in the traditional 6/8 or whatever it's in, and then the beat kicks in, and we turned it into a rock song. and when we did it, our music teacher came to me and said, "You realize you took Greensleeves and made it into a 4/4 rock song?" I'm like, "I didn't even realize I turned to a 4/4. I just mutated the melody so that it worked for the backbeat, and I didn't even think about it going from a 3/8 song to a 4/4 song, but it just kind of worked out.
Happens a ton for Christmas covers. Like, you know, so many traditional Christmas carols are actually in 3/4, and people will change them. You know, like, I mean, tons of Christmas songs are in 3/4. You know, famous ones, you know, like Silent Night is in 3/4, you know, but you hear some rock band going, you know, Silent Night, 4, 3, 4, Silent Night, 2, 3, 4, dun, dun, dun.
It's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. We didn't even get into, like, I came across a lot of songs where it was in 4/4, but the singers were like, or other parts were like doing another beat on top of the 4/4s, like polymeter stuff. So you think it's in a different time signature, but it's not. They're just like entering in different like weird beats and stuff. So that can create the feeling like it's in an odd time signature, but it's actually the foundation is in 4/4. So, but that's a whole other show. Whole other show.
One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. Yes.
Okay.
Anyway,
so much, Frank. Always
nice to see you guys.
Yeah, great.
Nice to catch up. Neil, hopefully we'll get together soon. And Phil, we will try. Lisa, we'll make another pilgrimage to St. John soon for sure.
Well, I'm going to be back in Toronto soon, so.
Good. Okay. Well, if you are around and you have time, let me know.
Absolutely.
Meet up for coffee or meals.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Okay, thanks guys, and let me know when you post this, and I will tag me and I will share. Okay.